Minus here from Pantheon Plus, and I got Hayah up here, as always. It's weird because my camera moves, so up here is always in a different spot for me. There.
The directions.
Oh, hi. Oh, hi. Tonight, we are actually going to be talking about the Ranger class. Before we do, I want to thank everybody who was able to make it to our first interviews with Minus. And yes, you will see Hayah on there at some point, I'm sure, even if it's cameos or interviews or who knows, maybe secret things. Also, on top of that, we want to thank everyone who has signed up on Pantheon.Plus for our community page. It will take time to grow it. We know that, but everyone who's already contributed, it's awesome. We're having a good time with it. So we invite everyone else who hasn't been on the website yet, come to Pantheon.Plus. If you already have an account, check out the Getting Started on the community page. And other than that, I got nothing else. So let's get into Ranger. So before we begin on Ranger, this is not going to be like your typical hunter class, which is kind of nice. So
that depends on your definition of the hunter class.
True. WoW hunter. My apologies.
Yeah.
So, which is pretty nice. It's actually, I got to be honest with you, Rangers in most games are not something I typically am into. But that being said, this Ranger actually is a little exciting when you look at the class breakdown across Pantheon, being able to melee and range. So let's jump right into it. The first thing is available races. So elf, halfling, and human. Only 3. I don't disagree with it though.
Not at all.
Yeah,
it's just where it needs to be.
Yeah, when we've talked about flavor a lot with Pantheon in general with their classes, a ranger is somebody who lives in the forest and does foresty things. So these are the only classes I can see living in the forest and doing foresty things. I don't think I would add any other class. You agree? Race.
Nope. Perfect.
All right, so we're going to read down through some stuff here. We don't always spend a lot of time with the resources, but the resource in this class is pretty interesting, and it's, I believe, a very important mechanic. So as we kind of said before, this is a melee and ranged DPS class with some utility. So the big combat resource here is momentum, which is going to build for you essentially through the damage you deal. Some abilities will have a set amount that you gain, and some will be a percentage of the damage you deal. And I think talking to you earlier, I said, wow, in end game,
Beast
is this
mode?
Yeah, are you going to gain a ton? Like when you're doing a lot more damage, you're going to gain a lot more momentum. So that'd be pretty interesting to see how the class scales from 2 perspectives. Is it going to be slow and steady at the beginning where it's like, and then get real strong end game, or is it going to be one of those things that's too strong end game? So I'm interested to see how that plays out. But the second part of that's really cool is that if you pull your momentum, then you'll actually be getting faster melee and ranged attack speed up to 20% if you're full. And that gives you a lot of decision making, depending on the ability spenders that you'll use. So, I mean, what do you think of that? What's your thoughts?
I kind of like it. It gives you a reason to to chill, I guess, would be the way.
Yeah, maybe save some of those spender abilities for important moments in a fight.
Exactly.
It's neat. It's interesting. In late game, if you're building fast, it may not be as
if you're capping all the time because you just do so much damage in the late game.
Yeah, and it makes a little note here that when a ranger chooses to spend momentum, their melee and ranged attack speed will slow in proportion until the ranger builds back up. So it's not it's like a steady flow. It's not just it's not just going to be key points where like 5%. It's just going to be through the whole bar, which is kind of cool. Now, interesting here, our armor available is cloth leather and light mail.
Cloth is a little weird.
What's that?
Cloth feels weird for this kind of a class.
Yeah, and and I wonder for classes like this that list cloth leather and light mail are all, are you really going to wear the lesser armor? I mean, are you going to take a penalty for doing so? Or will there be people who wear lower armor types?
Robes.
Yeah,
it's for RP reasons, so you can go to fancy events, galas, and weddings and whatnot in game.
There you go. I know in most games Rangers wear mail, and I guess with it saying light mail, I'm not super upset about that. And it feels weird because they're a class that's sort of like the hippie class, right? Them and druids, sort of. I mean, life.
Eh.
They love the forest and animals and stuff. So why would they wear leather? Just saying, it's human leather. Available weapons.
Ooh.
Yeah. Available weapons. Bows, crossbows, most one-handed weapons. And it does say that in the top, if you check out the class description, that they do favor one-handed weapons for the speed and the versatility of it. So I have no problems with any of that. The race selection seems right. The resource is pretty cool. And the armor and weapons seem absolutely fine to me.
Yep, everything checks out so far.
Yeah, Ranger is one of those classes that's very heavily defined. It's, I don't know. Maybe people would disagree with me, but even like D&D style Rangers it's a class it's got its niche, and you're gonna keep it and you're gonna keep it. So let's go through the featured abilities here. You guys will find out Rangers don't have a ton of abilities, at least listed here. But as a melee class, they may not have a ton. They may only have a little bit of range, so it'd be interesting to see how this list grows, but let's look at what we have so far. So one of the passives is Veilguard's Stride. Increases your movement speed after being outside for a short time. Returning inside will cancel the effect. So just the base movement speed outside. I think of the scene in Lord of the Rings where he's like jumping all over stuff. The Elven Ranger.
Oh, Legolas, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy you remembered his name because I couldn't have pulled that out. So they do this Lay of the Land ability. There's a few of these. Lay of the Land Ferret Scout. This immediately, Hayah didn't know this movie, but if anyone out there has seen the movie Beastmaster, I immediately thought of it. Control a small ferret to scout short distance ahead. So that's pretty cool. So you'll probably switch right to it and then like run around. I'm wondering if it'll pull aggro.
Ooh, good question.
Be interesting. Lay of the Land Hawk Scout. Control a Veil Hawk to scout further distance ahead in the air. And that one's for outside only. So it's cool that doesn't fully replace the ferret. If you're going to have the ferret, then you're going to have one that flies. Why would you? But, in a dungeon, you're going to throw the ferret down to look ahead. And that's pretty awesome. That's really, I got to tell you, that's a real cool mechanic when you think about it. When you talk about a game that's going to be difficult, you got to know what you're getting into.
Being able to peek forward and see what's coming up, yeah.
Yeah, WoW had things like that, but you didn't need it. You were always running in guns blazing. So when you're in small caverns or dark areas, it'd be pretty cool to send a small pet ahead to be able to look for what's coming. These beckon abilities feel like the same style, right? So it's the same style. Beckon a pair of Veilhawks to lift and carry you to a target location. I wonder if you can carry other people. Because it'd be like, hey guys, I'm going up here, peace. So
see you on the other side.
Have fun. Beckon Veil Striders. You beckon a pack of Veil Striders which run alongside you, dramatically increasing movement speed for a short period of time. It's kind of interesting that you don't ride them, you just run by them.
You think that's going to be like a Spirit Wolf? That kind of a thing? Long-term buff?
The Druid had like a SO ability, right?
A lot of classes so far have had like a movement increase ability, but we don't have links, so it's hard to gauge.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't know. So far, the only one I feel like's had a real SO has been the Druid, and I would be okay with that staying that way. I don't know. Hidden Snare. So a hidden trap that wraps an enemy's feet in tight thorny veins, up to 30 seconds, causing damage over time. So pretty cool. You root them in place, they'll take a little bit of damage while they're sitting there. If they're a melee class, that's perfect, right? Just leave them over there. And obviously damage outside of that will possibly break the effect. Pretty standard, but I like the damage over time effect in it.
Absolutely.
Flare. Launch a burning arrow that sticks in the ground at a target location, acting as a torch. So a little bit of a light source. And we've talked about it a few times. The darkness in this game is legit. If you've seen some of the streams,
deal with that. Yep.
And I love that. I'm sure people will cheat it with some gamma, but I absolutely love that dark cavernous feeling. Don't get me wrong. I've seen some really pretty done dungeons that look really good and the glows are nice, but just sometimes just pure dark gives you a much different feel. There's a lot of classes though that seem to have light sources. Ladwin's Whisper. Reduce the aggro radius of target animals. So that's pretty cool. Will help with pulling packs or pats that are walking through or random animals. That's pretty neat. Tracking, you are adept at noticing things others would easily miss. Your skill in tracking allows you to find specific targets in a large area by tracking their location. Um, that's pretty cool. I mean, that was huge in WoW, right? Running tracking. Or not WoW, I'm sorry, EQ.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking for rare spawns being up, all kinds of different things that you'd use that for. Hunters did have track animals, and there's different people that had tracking in WoW, but it wasn't really used much.
It wasn't the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just it was around you on a small map, right? And you just could highlight things and see if it was there. So it had its uses in early WoW, but it really sort of just faded away as being important later in the game. So pretty cool. I do like. I think EQ used it a lot better with like kind of the menu system that came up and kind of pointed you towards things. That was pretty neat. Kalen's command: you speak in a commanding voice to a target animal, immediately ending combat and making target enemy friendly towards you for a limited time. So it's pretty neat.
Wolf, heal.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that was very commanding. Good job on that. I like that. I could sense the commanding tone. So it's interesting. Imagine you have a paladin and you have a ranger, and you get overwhelmed by an animal and another ad, and the paladin says, "Hey, lay down your sword," and the guy's like, "Hey, cool, we're friends." And then you're like, "Hey, animal, heal," and now you're just fighting one thing. I mean, it's not gonna always present itself as a possibility, but it's pretty neat. And with people kind of wondering how the 12 abilities are gonna work, the only thing that scares me about things like these that are like very situational is how often you're gonna have it on your bar in that moment. So it's kind of interesting to think that really comes into knowing what you're heading into. So, okay. So the next little set of abilities here are ranger specific, which is kind of cool because forage has been in a lot of games where you can go and you can find food. It was almost used as like a semi crafting reagent finder in some games. But in this game, this is a ranger ability that allows you to find ingredients that you use to make bombs, tonics, not bombs.
Bombs.
Is this like tomb and tube? People are getting mad at me.
Maybe, I don't
know. And weapon coatings. So really cool. I wonder if the ranger has to apply them, if they can apply them to other players, if you can buy these coatings. Having a built-in non-profession, possibly sellable buff to weapons is really cool for a class. We often talk about certain classes being able to make money. Maybe a ranger can make a lot of money with that. So that's pretty interesting. And it just gives a couple examples. My guess is there's going to be quite a bit of abilities here for them to put this, but your range attacks apply a certain effect. You apply it to a bladed weapon, it'll glow as a light source. You grant this one's really nice for a ranger. Get bonus momentum generation and increase your healing. So some pretty cool different effects there from Forge that are pretty neat. So those are the featured abilities of a ranger. What's your feel so far? Before we get into the melee and the ranged, I mean, that's your flavor. So how does that flavor feel?
To me, it's a little underwhelming, but the melee and the range abilities might make up for that.
Yeah, it's sort of basic. I think in every other class we've done, we've seen something like, oh, that's really cool. In basic's not bad. I don't want people to think right away that I think basic is bad, but it's pretty basic. So let's go ahead and we're going to jump down into melee and ranged abilities here. So the first one here is a melee ability, Ferocious Assault. Unleash a flurry of rapid strikes with both weapons, inflicting physical damage with a chance, and this says 50%. This is like the first number.
Actual number?
Yeah. Wow. It was a mistake. Somebody copied it. To interrupt your enemy's spellcasting. That's kind of interesting. So the interrupt chance will increase beyond 50% with your agility and dexterity, so it'll become more reliable. An interrupt that's not 100%, and in fact is 50%. It'd be interesting to know how high you can get that, and how often that will matter.
Yeah, I still don't think interrupting is going to be as front row center required like it was in this. Maybe certain things will be, but it's not going to be like every fight within a dungeon is going to need, a rotation on 3 different mobs with a priority, and I don't think it's going to be that way. I hope it's not that way.
I would not mind that. Coughing on stream. I'm a pro. Beckon Thunderpaw. So beckon a Thunderpaw bear into battle, which charges into your enemy, knocking them down and making them more vulnerable to physical damage for a short period of time. So a knockdown and a damage buff from a bear. And if you notice, it still has that beckon, so the theme has come into the melee abilities. It's kind of cool. I like that. Let's keep that going. It's different animals. So a knockdown and a physical damage debuff. And then the next one is Beckon Panthras. Isn't that a Thundercat? Panthra? I think it is.
Laser cat.
Somebody will correct me. It might be Panthra. I don't know. Beckon a Panthra into battle, which ravages your enemy for a short time. Ravages them. Inflicting high damage and making them more vulnerable to physical attacks. So just it's a normal attack. Withdraw. Kick off your enemy as you fire a point blank shot, vaulting backwards. That is in Diablo.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, I like that. I'm pretty sure that's a Diablo 3 ability where you fire. It's like a evasive shot. You do it and you fly backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this one's a little bit more specific, as if you kick off your enemy, and I hope there's a bitchin' animation for that.
Right? Let's go, Smurfs. So
Bam!
And it automatically toggles your range attack. So that's an interesting thing. If that ability automatically targets you or changes your range, that means it's probably not going to do it automatically. So as you're moving and running, you have to actually self-toggle it. That's it's not incredible, or it's not going to make a huge difference, but that's interesting to know. It'd be really cool.
That makes sense. In EverQuest, there was /auto attack and /auto fire for your ranged auto attacks.
I remember that. Yeah. I think that me and you would both agree that with 4 melee abilities, we can easily say this class is far from completed. There's legitimately one attack there that you're doing. The other 2 are pets. So I'm going to guess that there's probably a lot more. If not, then how they say they're a hybrid, I don't know.
Or a heavy dependence on auto attack damage.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, every class doesn't need to be super complicated. There needs to be classes that are less complicated than others. There needs to be classes that people can gravitate to that are, or want to just have more of a basic play style. So, I don't want to knock on it and sound elitist like I want more, because sometimes more is just annoying, honestly. Mm-hmm. So I think there's probably at least a few more. So, ranged abilities. Silent Arrow. Carefully aimed shot that inflicts devastating damage to your enemy. If your enemy is currently caught in a trap, this ability will critically hit. Additionally, Silent Arrow will inflict bonus damage if outdoors. Silent Arrow is only usable out of combat. And
that's your starter. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and this next thing here is interesting. It is manually aimed.
Yeah.
So you're adding an action-style combat ability thus far, with not many classes left, into one class. That's interesting. That seems strange.
Just a little bit.
Right? I mean, I'd have to see it in play. I don't have a problem with it, but why would it be why would you have one aimed ability in the game? That's just strange to me. It says here, if in third-person view, activating this ability will move the camera into an over-the-shoulder perspective. So the game literally turns into Resident Evil.
Nice.
All right. Warning shot. Requires an offensive target. Fire an arrow into the ground at target location, which is attuned to your offensive target. When this target moves within the warning shot, it will fire off a loud warning. There you go. That is awesome. So you see something far away, you fire a warning shot near it, and as you're fighting the enemies that you're fighting, or if a pat is coming, that will sound an alarm. That is, we were saying in the featured abilities there wasn't something that really stood out as different and unique and cool. I really like that. And I'm probably overhyping it, but you know what? I really, really like that ability a lot. That's awesome. Or for those that camp a single spot and
Yeah, there you go.
And you're falling asleep because it only spawns every 5 minutes, it'll wake you up.
You're
This is perfect for it. Harpoon shot. Fire an arrow with a rope attached, allowing you to pull your enemy 2 meters towards you. Get over here.
Nice.
I don't understand how that would work. So you're firing it at them. It hits them and sticks at them. So I guess you'd have to then pull for 2 meters.
You yank.
Like, yeah. Okay. 2 meters forward. You run out of strength after that. Your bow breaks. Weighted bolt. Fire a heavy blunted bolt at your enemy with enough force to knock them 2 meters away.
That's a push and pull. Yeah. Okay.
Push and pull. Okay. Glass arrow. Fire a special arrow with a glass tip, which explodes on impact, dealing damage to nearby enemies, causing a chance to bleed. That's kind of cool. Imagine just fire glass at something it hits and just shatters across the enemies. So that's
shrapnel damage. Yep.
Pretty cool flavor. Aim to kill. Rapidly fire 3 arrows at your enemy with a chance to fire up to 2 additional arrows as you get stronger. Agility and dexterity. So, believe it or not, that's the entirety of the Ranger class. So, I'll start by saying we've said it before already in this video. I don't think it's complete. I think that it's maybe close to complete. I don't think this is going to be a super complex class. I think that with the base that's here, they've kind of predefined it as being a pretty simplistic, even Lord class for being a Ranger. But I do think that we're missing some ranged and melee abilities. I really do. If not, like you said, it's going to be pretty heavy auto attack. So,
but I could see that working for this kind of a class. Like it's, your woodsman warrior guy. It just works.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I know that with the summoner, I was sort of meh. I'm not meh. And it might be a pretty cool hybrid class to be able to do ranged in melee. I don't know. This one is a super to be determined for me. And I'm not saying that there's not a lot of classes that are probably to be determined, but I feel like I got a really good feel of the others. I kind of know what I think of them, comparing them to other classes in the game. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this one. I think that I really need to see more.
I like it.
You're a fan?
I've always liked Rangers, not that Abomination Hunter from WoW. That is no. But Rangers in this style, I've always...
Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said about shooting your bow and then running in with weapons.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's pretty cool. So that's it for us on this one, guys. This isn't, like I said, not a super long one. There's not a lot of abilities here. What do you think? Is the class close to done? Do you think this is a pretty complete toolkit? Do you think there's stuff missing? What are your thoughts on Ranger? I know there's a lot of people out there that want to play Ranger, so what are your thoughts? Let us know. And next week, we'll be actually covering Rogue. As we wrap up, wow, we're going to be down to like 3 more videos after this one for classes. Then we're going to have to figure out what the hell we're going to do. Should be fun. We'll start making people mad with opinions.
There we go.
All right, guys.
Medding in combat video. It'll happen.
For sure. Guys, if you haven't gone to Pantheon Plus, as we've said at the beginning, check out the new community features. Check out the new page. Should work great on mobile and tablets now as well. Spend a lot of time on that. And if you haven't subscribed to our page, we would thank you greatly for doing so. We are really fortunate to have as many people have done it as they have. So thank you guys. As we constantly say, we'll continue to try to earn that. We're going to continue to push out Pantheon content, stuff that you guys want to see, stuff that we think you want to see and we're completely wrong and you yell at us for, and stuff that you guys suggest. So we will continue to do weekly videos with myself and Hayah on different topics, just because of the interview shows out there that will be separate. So we'll still keep doing this. We're still going to have different people in the community on with us. So look forward to doing Rogue, which you guys will see next week. And let us know what you think of Ranger, everybody. Hayah, anything before we go?
Nope. Take care, everyone.
All right, take care, guys.